The CCM version of Angel is intended to work the same way as the original did. All of the features should be the same, but there might be small differences. So let's quickly recap what that is. So if we open up our CCM menu, obviously we have creatures. So creatures are quite simple. You select the creature you want, you drop it on the board, and your creature appears. No big deal, nothing exceptional there. You will, though, note that when you drop a creature, it will automatically stop dropping more creatures and close your customs menu. That's a little quirk, the way that Angel now implements the drop feature. It basically only allows you to spawn one creature at a time, whereas in core Talespire you could drop multiple copies. But I mean, it's pretty simple to just reopen that menu and drop another one. So if you are doing an encounter of goblins, yeah, okay, it makes it a little bit more cumbersome to drop multiple copies, but not that bad. So that's creatures. That's self-explanatory. Then we have auras. So in order to use an aura, you need to have a mini selected, because our auras are basically content that is attached to a existing creature. So if I open up the window here, I've got the knight selected. I'm going to go to auras, and I'm going to add this wonderful thunder wave, and we can see there's the thunder wave. Now, unlike the previous version of Angel, where you could right click and have a remove aura, currently the CCM version does not have that, and it does not have that intentionally. The reason for this is that the whole point of the CCM plugin and plugins that use CCM is to be resilient. We want to be dependent on as few things as possible, especially not BR code, but also not reliant on other plugins, so that when anything changes, hopefully things don't break. So we are intentionally not putting a radial icon here, because that would mean dependency on the radial plugin, and if that changes, this would break. So at the moment, the way to remove the aura, if there is one, which also worked in the current version of Angel, is to reselect the same aura. So as soon as you do that, it will go away. Yes, if you have multiple auras, or if you have tons of auras, you'll have to find the one that is activated, but that's the way to remove auras at the moment. All right, so then we've got effects. So as we discussed, auras are attached to a creature. Effects are the same thing as a creature, so they have their own base, but that base is made automatically hidden once you spawn an effect. So if I go to effects and I go blue buff here and I throw it down, we can see that we've got the blue buff and the base has disappeared. Now again, you're going to be able to see this base in your GM view, and that's how, if you need to remove it, that's how you can remove it. Select it on the GM view and remove the asset. Okay, so that's creatures, that is auras, that's effects, and then of course we have filters. Everybody loves filters because that's how most people do weather effects. So I can go to filters here, I can put on my blizzard, and it works the same way as it did in the previous Angel plugin, is that it creates a base. You plop that base anywhere. Similar to an effect, it will make that base disappear. But instead of the effect, instead of the content being like an effect which is centered on the base, it attaches it to the camera. So you can see that even if I pan away from where that base was thrown down, I'm still getting the content. But that base is there so that you can remove the filter, because obviously you can't really select on your camera. So if I go to GM mode, I can see that filter is there. If I delete it, the weather effect or filter goes away. So those are the main types that are right now understood in Angel, which is the same types that were there before. As I said, in my list here, I also have objects or props and vehicles, and those are just additional categories in my rewriter. As you saw, they are basically being done as kind effect. So basically, when I throw down a cart, it will make the base disappear because it's being treated as an effect. But it allows me to nicely categorize my props and vehicles at this level instead of making a group for them. But you could not use the rewriter, therefore you wouldn't have these categories here, and instead make them a group. That is totally up to you. That's the flexibility of the combination of these plugins, is that you can adjust the way that you want all this organized. The CCM version of Angel does also still support the modifiers. So if you remember what the modifiers are, if, for example, this cart is set to show up as a effect, but I want to force it as being a creature or a filter or whatever, that's where you can use the modifier keys. So while you are spawning the asset, if you hold down the modifier keys, which is basically left alt for aura, left control for creature, I think. You look at the documentation. It'll tell you what modifier keys are each thing is. But basically what that allows you to do is when you're spawning, you can cause Angel to spawn it as a different type if that's what you need. You should rarely need that, but for example, when you're doing something like if you want to add a pet to your mini, animals are likely to be kind creature, but you can force them as an aura to be able to kind of add them to your mini. So you can have like a familiar or something like that. So there's a few niche cases where that comes in handy. But because people were holding down modifier keys accidentally when spawning, the modifier keys only are active when your scroll lock is on. If your scroll lock is off, then they will not be, they'll be ignored, so you don't accidentally spawn with a modifier key and then get unexpected results. And the last thing is the CCM version of Angel does have a configuration that includes key bindings for all of its functionality. That includes the animations, the audio, eventually blend sequences, and so on. All of those bindings are defined in the configuration, so you can completely remap what keys trigger what effects. And that's about it.